hoping to press home his point. Jeremy Corbyn here to take on the Prime Minister and persuade the public he can be one too. Boris Johnson not stopping to chat. And here's why. The Northwest is not his natural terrain. His team hope this stage is. Barely 6 feet between them, but these two men politically worlds apart, and a big gap in the polls too. Mr Corbyn has a lot of ground to make up. Brexit top of the agenda, Mr Corbyn offering the public a choice.
The Conservative government is failing. It's failed on the economy, on the climate crisis, the National Health Service and on Brexit. We will get Brexit sorted by giving you, the people, the final say and implement whatever you decide.
The Prime Minister's message direct: deliver Brexit.
We can end this national misery, break the deadlock, get Brexit done and make 2020 a year of prosperity and growth where we invest in our NHS and deal with the cost.
And attacking Mr Corbyn for sitting on the fence.
We don't know, and I've asked this before, we don't know on which side Mr Corbyn would campaign. Is he going to campaign for Leave or Remain?
Can we ask Mr Corbyn to respond to that?
Very clearly, we will negotiate. We will negotiate an agreement and we will put that alongside Remain in a referendum. A document here, a document here.
A Corbyn counter-attack. He says Mr Johnson will open up the NHS to American business.
Full market access for US products to our National Health Service. You're going to sell our National Health Service out to the United States and Big Pharma.
This is an absolute invention. It is completely untrue. There are no circumstances whatever in which this government or any Conservative government will put the NHS on the table in any trade negotiation. Our NHS will never be for sale.
Mr Johnson warming up another well-worn attack line, the risk of a Labour deal with the SNP and 2 referendums in 2020.
I've said there would be no deal with the SNP, there would be no support for a Scottish referendum in the early years of the next Labour government.
I listened very carefully, as I always do, to Mr Corbyn. I didn't hear him say he was going to rule out a referendum on Scotland. Did you? We're ruling out a referendum. It's perfectly clear. It's perfectly clear that the price of Nicola Sturgeon's support for the chaotic coalition that he would comprise is a second referendum.
Let's allow him to respond. Can you rule it out?
There's 9 years of chaotic coalitions already.
The attacks on the candidates not just coming from each other.
This whole nation will have watched you both throughout this campaign in utter despair. At the heart of all of this is one very simple question. How can we trust you?
The way to restore trust in politics is to get Brexit done and move forward. We have a great deal that enables us to do it.
Leadership is about listening to people, trying to put their ideas into practice and finally come to a decision.
How can the nation trust you to have the personal integrity and the individual strength of character?
I would just say to Farhan, look at what I have said I'm going to do as a politician and look what I've delivered, whether it was as Mayor of London.
Does the truth matter in this election?
I think it does, and I think it's very important.
Both men confronted with their lowest political moments, on the back foot and on the defensive.
One of your former chief of staffs from your time as London Mayor said that you'd betrayed every person you'd ever had any dealings with. And we know, Mr Corbyn, there are big questions about anti-Semitism within Labour, for example.
I have taken action in my party where anyone has committed any anti-Semitic acts or made any anti-Semitic statements. They are either suspended or expelled from the party.
Will you both make a pledge to improve things?
A moment of accord, but they agree on little else. And to wrap things up, a Christmas quiz.
What present would you leave under the Christmas tree for each other this year?
What I would probably leave under the tree for him would be A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and he can then understand how nasty Scrooge was.
Thank you.
Some damson jam.
Lovely.
Damson jam.
OK, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for that.
This was the first ever head-to-head debate between 2 party leaders, and Jeremy Corbyn clearly going into it the underdog. Boris Johnson streets ahead in the polls and perhaps with the most to lose. But during that debate, both men laughed at by the audience, Boris Johnson over issues of trust and Jeremy Corbyn over the matter of Brexit. And what's the big takeaway? Well, this election is shaping up to be in an unpopularity contest, with both men vying to be the least repellent rather than the most magnetic when it comes to the voters. Their supporters blind to their flaws. Your man has a trust issue with the public.
No, he doesn't. Our Prime Minister...
Why did the audience laugh?
The audience, like everyone in the country, recognises that we have a Brexit deal that is oven ready, that we can get done by January the 31st.
In this debate, Jeremy Corbyn talked about the kind of policies which offer hope.
Splits in the spin room and splits in the public too. A snap poll saying tonight's contest too close to call. Perhaps no one lost this bout, but for both men a failure to win, and the race for number 10 still very much on.